Hello, hello, beautiful earth angels. I'm Elvia Rowe, founder of angelsteach.com, and welcome to 2021. Can I get a hooray, an amen? 2020 was quite a year, wasn't it? We all know that, of course, no surprise, but filled with so many gifts, so many opportunities for healing, for going into deeper truths, and a lot of that involved a good amount of pain and struggle, and still does. You know, we're not over it yet. But 2021, the cards for this year have come forward in a very different way, and I'll share a little bit about that in a minute. But just at the outset, I do want to say that 2021 is already feeling a lot lighter. And if you happen to watch the Wheel of the Year spread for last year, for 2021, for 2020, you know, the cards that came forward were just, I picked them spontaneously, which is different this year. But I picked them spontaneously, and each card was just like just a whole nother level of, oh shit, you know, was happening in my head. I don't think I said that out loud, but that was what was happening in my head. And I'm happy to say that that did not happen for this year. There are a few themes that have definitely come through. Really not a surprise. There's going to be a lot of healing. There's going to be a lot of release. There's going to be a lot of shifting into these new energies. Things have changed. You know, there's no going back to what was. So a lot of this coming year is going to be getting our footing with that new energy that's coming forward. So I've picked a card for each of the 12 months. And how these cards came forward is unprecedented with my work, anyway. I was heavily guided to this deck by Stacey DeMarco. It's the Elemental Oracle. And what happened was I was thinking about the Wheel of the Year spread early December. And I asked the angels, do I have the deck that I need for this? And they said no. So they guided me to this deck. So point number one, they were very specific, very, very specific about this deck. And you may have heard me say this before, but the right card deck is as important as the right card. So lots of emphasis on this beautiful deck by Stacey DeMarco. Second notable thing is that I usually pretty much always pick the cards spontaneously while I'm doing the reading. I don't prepare. I, generally speaking, just allow it to come through as a channel. And this time we were doing a solstice altar art project, and which was a lot of fun. For those of you who joined us, I'm sure you're feeling the same. It was quite magical. But anyway, we all had to pick a card for part of that, and so I was getting used to this new deck, getting to know it, and I went to pick a card, and I knew that I wasn't done with one card, and I'm like, okay, and I kept pulling, and I kept pulling, because I kept feeling this sense, I talk about this idea, this feeling of completion, like you're complete, and I wasn't getting that sense of completion, so I kept pulling a card until I had picked 12. And I'm like, so angels, is this for the Wheel of the Year spread? Mm-hmm. Yes. So the cards came forward ahead of time. And during this beautiful solstice altar art ceremony. So there was a lot of really sacred energy that was happening at the time. So that's note number two. Number three is that I actually was guided to do some journaling on each of these cards that came forward. And so my notes are, I'm going to be spontaneous with whatever comes in, but I do have prepared information for these as well. So very different, which, I always pay attention to how the reading happens, really essential to do that because that's as important as the messages coming through. So already we know that 2021 is going to be a different year. There's going to be different ways of doing things is part of the emphasis. Are being creative and just allowing whatever those creative energies are asking us to do. So that's already, without even looking at any of the cards, an overarching message for this coming year. So how you can use this reading, obviously it's longer than my usual monthly ones. You can use it throughout the year. So you can use it just watching it for, what does 2021 look like, and just start to finish. you can also look at a specific month. I'm going to be putting the minutes into this so that you know how to jump to March, for example. So during the year, you can either tune into your angels and pick either number, 1 through 12, maybe it's number 3, or you might hear the month March and jump right to that month. So obviously each of the months have a number corresponding to them. So again, you can use this for just a one-off reading, or you can use it to get a sense of what's going to be going on during that month, or you can use it just to look at the whole year. So for each card, I'm going to share what has come forward for me, and I've also been guided to share a little clip. As my students always know, you got to trust yourself first, so look at the book second. And I have been guided to pull a little clip out of each section for each of the cards here. So let's get to it. Welcome to 2021. All right. So for the month of January, or for those of you who chose number 1, your card is Time. And I had picked this card a number of times when I just got the deck, so there's definitely a theme here. The subtitle there is Discipline. And the message here is looking at life less linearly. In other words, we have this sort of way of being in the world that's very linear, that's very in the mind, that's very limited. That's the word that I'm looking for. It's very limited. And what this card is about is helping us to adapt to these new energies by being open to the idea that time is different from what we think it to be. And that time, and I'm sure you guys have had this experience where sometimes it feels like time just flies by, and sometimes it feels like it just goes on and on and on. And so much of it is about our own perceptions, and understanding that that's just as real as anything else in this illusion that we call life on Earth. So very much breaking through, you see this image right here, time breaking through to new ways of being in these newer energies. So adapting, allowing these other dimensions to come forward to be a part of your life. And this is a theme that actually comes up in later cards as well. So definitely an overarching theme for the entire year. So one of the things that I wrote down and channeled was that, which I think is interesting terminology, is allow other dimensions to approach you, which I find really kind of an interesting concept, because we're in other dimensions, but we're allowing them to come into our reality, allowing them to approach us. So the keys up here are about unlocking what has been mysterious. The angels are guiding us towards the future here and are inviting us to just close our eyes. This tends to be a little bit of a quieter month, to close our eyes and just feel into, so if there is another dimension that is working to approach me, what might that be? What does that feel like? What do you hear as you start to do that? What do you feel in your gut? And so much about sensing is what I'm hearing. So she is standing very strongly, very firmly on the earth. I think sometimes we think other dimensions, that it can mean that we're losing our groundedness, that we're spacing out, that we're losing touch with reality. And this is really a message that's not that. Working with these, allowing those other dimensions to be part of our lives is actually how we are going to ground better in these energies. And you may already know that with the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction that we just had on the solstice, it was a big mile marker in the age of Aquarius, which we are now living in, and that's the element of air. So, we've moved from the age of Pisces, which is water, into the age of Aquarius, which is air, and it's a very different feeling. It's a very different experience. So, just allowing that. So there is some emphasis on structure and discipline. It is a quieter month, but there is a little wink from the angels about making sure that you are taking care of those things that need to be taken care of, that you're taking care of yourself first and foremost, and just allowing the boundaries. I'm hearing boundaries are really important. So the little quote that I was guided to for this particular card is, time is an important element in the way it combines with other elements: the speed of light, the velocity of an object, space, time, and gravity. So thinking about time as an element, I find particularly yummy, because I usually think earth, air, fire, water as the elements, but thinking of time as an element is probably one of the core reasons that our angels guided me to this deck for this year, because I think it's really helping us to stretch our minds. Okay, February, number 2, storms. So there is a little bit of turbulence this month, and I was very drawn, the first thing I was drawn to is the fact that storms is plural. And what I immediately heard was that it's personal storms, tribal storms, collective storms, this layers upon layers upon layers of storms that we are all exposed to. So when you think about it personally, it's like you can be going through a hard time. There can be a difficult time in other members of your family, your neighborhood, in your country, in your world. And all of these things come together. And yes, they are one experience experienced by you, but they are sourced from different places. And I think that's part of the point. And so there's a lot of emphasis on staying calm and doing those things that keep you grounded. There's such a strong message of faith in this card. I mean, look at her. She is so fully supported, and the grass is green and it is growing. And so while there is a lot of cleansing and clearing, and that's actually the subtitle on the card, is cleansing, there's a lot of support that is there for us. We are held and we are safe. And so faith came up as a really strong theme within this message. And how we get to faith is by doing those things to take care of ourselves, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. That's how we garner the faith, how we build that faith muscle. And again, I smile when I look at this card, because even though it's storms, it's just, there's such this sense of we're held, we're held, we're loved, and we're not going to be dropped. Look how strong that hand is. So the other part of the message that I got from the lightning bolts is that it may feel that there are many paths or choices at the moment, but in truth, there really is just one path that is in the highest good. So just remember that as you're choosing, and choosing from that space where all of those emotions and those feelings from all those storms aren't taking you out of your best decision-making process. So in other words, take the time you need when you're making decisions. Don't let other people influence you unduly. This is a time to be very deliberate and consider those decisions, and don't make any quick, harsh, rash decisions from an emotional place, because that's not going to get you where you want and need to go. All right, so just looking to see if there's any other from my notes, and there's not. So let's see what Stacey DeMarco says that came forward from here. Sometimes you need to raise a lot of energy to blow away what you no longer need. That's it. That's the one sentence that I want to pull out of what she wrote for this, because so much emphasis on that. We've had an intense period of time here, and it's not just 2020. Like, things have been intense for a while now. They just, really exploded. in intensity in 2020, but it's been intense. So, you know, sometimes we need a storm to really clear the air. And, but remember how supported we are. You are. So for March, pressure, beautiful image. And yeah, this is another little less comfortable card as Storms is. And yet it's really beautiful. And there's a lovely message in this because the emergence of life itself, this is the image I got right away when I picked this card, was the whole process of birth. And I've been blessed to have given birth twice now. And my husband will actually say otherwise, but I loved the process. I really did. I think I've probably forgotten the painful part, but just the primal pushing out a baby is just so, there's nothing like it. You know, it's just sacred and so special. And that requires an enormous amount of pressure. So when I got that image and when I picked this card, I actually did a little Googling because I was curious, like how much pressure is happening during the birthing process. And what I learned is that it's about 7.5 times the weight of the baby is the amount of pressure that's being exerted during labor and delivery. And, you know, think about it. So if you're a 100-pound person, that's 750 pounds of weight. Like, a lot of pressure to create life, to bring this beautiful, beautiful being into existence, to take its first breath. And that is what the message is really about for the month of March. You know, the subtitle here is transformation. The word that came forward really strongly for me is regeneration. You know, this is a month of regeneration. So we've cleared out from February. We're continuing to release stuff and shift into the energies. And for March, you know, there's pressure here, but it's because we're birthing. It's because we're transforming and regenerating, you know. And so it's such a beautiful, beautiful process. And you'll notice those flecks of gold that are coming off of her. And that's partly, it feels like sweat from the pushing process. But what light she is creating, what beautiful transformation she is undergoing. So the key for navigating this is downtime with focus on those things that you value, things that you're grateful for. You know, there is a little bit of a theme of, I'm seeing a little bit of a double helix in here, you know, the DNA strand. And so I think there's emphasis on family, you know, so continued quiet time. And yet there's this idea that, you know, family is important. Reminder that family is important. And it may not just be your birth family. It could be also your people you consider to be family, right? All right, so our quote for this card: you can view pressure as being negative, or you can see it as being a shaper, director, or positive influence. Find a happy medium where you can benefit and not be disadvantaged. So, yes, pressure. You think about it, even gravity is a form of pressure, and it keeps us here on Earth. So be with it, be one with it. As Peter always says when we call in the day in the morning, and just be one with the energies and don't fight it. For April, number 4, we have rain. And the subtitle there is fecundity. And the first thing that I heard when I picked this card is many hats, one mission. Which I thought was really interesting. But when you look at her, she is a pregnant woman, she is a tree, she is a goddess, she is a statue representing wounds of the feminine, and yet she is one, you know, she is whole. And I think sometimes we get into this space, a lot of times, honestly, we get into this space where we feel like in order to be whole, we can't have pain, we can't have wounds, we can't have scars. And what this card is reminding us of is that we are all of those things. You know, we are the love, we are the celebration, we are the sorrow, we are the grief, we are the joy, we are the grace, we are all of it. You know, and when we choose to ignore or deny or to put aside any part of us that is part of our whole, we're rejecting a side of who we are. And so this is just recognizing and encouraging us to understand that life itself is all these things. And that we, as we embrace the experience of life, that we are embracing the wholeness of who we are. The other thing I want to mention about this card is look at how certain she is of herself, how whole, how confident. She's alluring. She has this come hither look on her face as life is just springing up all around her. She is not rejecting any part of herself, and she is so very surrounded and supported by life. You know, and that feels like a theme that's carrying over from the card that came forward for February too, like just this strong sense of support from life itself. And life, of course, is a synonym for God or the divine or source. You know, she is supported. So the quote for this month is, the conditions of greater prosperity, excuse me, the conditions of greater prosperity are being met. Know that all will be well. Cleanse yourself of old, outdated views. You have everything you need. Let yourself be cleansed. I love that. The conditions for prosperity are being met. For May, number 5, this is the biome. And as I said earlier, I always pay attention to how things transpire during a reading. And I picked these cards on the 20th during that solstice thing. But I was guided to receive the message for this card right after we had a Zoom call with our kids on Christmas Day. And significant because when they were both here for Thanksgiving, our daughter brought this card game, Ecology, where the object of the game is to create these sustainable biomes. So biome is definitely a theme. And what I realized, what came out of all of that sequence of events, is that a family unit itself is a biome in many ways. You know, so a biome is a sustainable ecosystem that, you know, where these living beings are connected and feeding each other and nurturing each other and helping each other and creating just sort of a whole living being, a biome itself. So the message for this, and again, it's sort of a continuation of a theme, is a lot about release. You know, as we emerge into these new energies and feel into them, it's going to be really important. This is a little bit more of a, I guess I would say, stricter message, because it's going to be really important that you be discerning and really follow your guidance, all of us. Follow our guidance with what we're choosing and allowing back into our lives, those relationships, those habits, those behaviors, those things. We're really being called to a higher path, recognizing how incredibly connected we are, of course, within the family unit, but also within, again, those layers, the neighborhood, the city, the town, the state, the country, the planet. Like, we're all connected. And that's the very strong message here for the month of May, or the number 5, is about responsibility with those choices and really doing our best to choose from a soul level, which to me is the same as guidance, is that we're following that deeper truth, that voice that keeps us in that responsible place, that keeps us making decisions that are not just in our best interest, but in best interest of all involved, which ultimately you could argue is for all of humanity, depending upon the decision. So Yeah. I was just thinking about, I am going to share this. I was just thinking about when I was in seminary training many years ago, we were guided to eat one of the meals in silence and to just be very deliberate with what we were doing. And I was eating rice, and I was thinking about where that rice came from and all the different people that had hands on it, that were part of growing it and bringing it to, what I was putting in my mouth and was nurturing and feeding my body. So it can be very easy for us to get into this very contained, closed mindset where we think that our decisions may not impact others, but our decisions impact so much more than we're typically aware of. And again, that's what the biome card is really emphasizing for us, is to allow greater awareness to how far-reaching our decisions are. So, to that end, the quote that came forward for this card is, "The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. You are asked for synergy at present. Be aware of the needs of others. You are a part of the same whole. Consider working more closely with your community." So that is our message for May. The card for June, number 6, Inner Core. And I was immediately struck by how similar it is in feeling to the card that just came forward for May, right? There's this idea of the globe, of the collective, of being together, and yet for June, there is greater release. So my sense is that those things that we're thinking about and starting to take action on in May from that soul level is starting to happen in June. And, there's a lot about release and letting go of those things in this card, more in terms of an action. What's really interesting to me is that the subtitle for this card is Solidity. And yet this feels so much about movement, about letting go, about release. And, so putting that together with this idea of solid, because I, tend to think of solid as being stable, not moving. And I think it's about creating a new foundation so that we can be more solid. And there's also, just coming in now, there's also this message about understanding that change is constant. And we know that here. It's knowing it here. So understanding that solid and having solid footing does require movement. Solid footing, look at the planet itself. The planet is moving, I don't know, Peter always quotes this and I forget what it is, but how many miles an hour the planet is hurling through space. We are always moving, and yet it feels solid. So I think it's about feeling that sense of solidity given that things are changing and that the energies are continuing to shift, and that you're continuing to be asked to release. You'll notice this beautiful dove here. And the result of all this, sometimes it can feel like oh shit, more healing, more release, more stuff. And yet it's so much about lightening and peace and, that first breath that the baby takes. What a special, special moment that is, There's nothing like it. There is a sense of duality in this, I'm noticing, between the two faces there. And I think that is really about understanding that this duality is coming together. It's like a new human is being born. It's like these two disparate, the male, the female, these two entities are coming together to create one, is what this is feeling like to me. So there's always going to be duality. I don't want to mislead you with that. But there is going to be a much greater coming together. But we have to release in order to do that, because we're coming from such a way of being in the world where we're very polarized. So there's got to be a lot of healing and release to come back to this space of oneness. And the sentence that came forward, the quote for this card is, "Stay constant in your endeavors. Do not stop your progress. Seek those who are reliable and solid. Keep your promises. The greatest power is from the inside out." So, yeah, you know, I think that's definitely another message about boundaries. You know, when you're reevaluating your world, because I'm sure there are a lot of people in your life you probably haven't seen in a while, make sure that those connections that you're making and you're really working on are the ones that feed you. And make sure that you're working really hard to build those, to rebuild those, to rekindle those relationships, because they're important for you, for all of us. For July, I smiled so wide when this card came forward, because look at it. There's sand there, there's a beach. She's in this space of such joy. And you know, the cards for last summer were not very light. They were not very exciting. Well, they were exciting. They were not very happy cards. And this is just such, you know, the playtime exhale. You know, she's taking a breath in, and she's taking a breath in because there's going to be such an exhale during the month of July. You know, this is a time of just playing and just being and just allowing yourself to just enjoy life, like just really steep yourself in joy, you know. And music is certainly a big part of that, but so is dance, so is singing, so is art, so is reading, so is hanging with friends, so is I'm thinking of swimming because I love my swimming pool. But there's just this really celebration, this exhale. There's, you know, the heavy lifting for the moment is done, you know, and it's time. This is summer camp. That's what I'm hearing for this. This is like summer camp, which is funny because I actually hated camp, but that's a whole other thing. I know a lot of people liked it, and we had a camp. We had a camp, and I loved that, so I'll stay with that. Anyway, I digress. Joy. You see the subtitle there is joy. So, very welcome card, I'm sure you'll agree. And the clip here is, bear with me because I didn't, here we go. Music has the ability to change mood and state, so spiritual, ritualized, and religious music are of huge cultural importance. So what I took for this, which was really kind of, I guess a little bit more of a serious side, but not really, to this, is that, you know, we think of music in terms of a playlist for working out, or background music, or lullabies, or whatever. But music is also a really important part of the foundation of the human experience, because even the rhythm of a truck going by, or you know, birds singing, there's music that is integral to who we are as humans here on planet Earth. And so I think that just a little serious wink there from that clip is just remembering how important music is, and use it, you know, use it whenever it feels good. I know that Peter's big on music. He loves music, and I tend to, I guess, not think to put music on, but whenever he suggests it, and you know, we're cooking or we're doing a puzzle or whatever we're doing, it always feels so good, you know. So I guess bring music more into your life is the PS for that card. For August, number 8, Breath, which has a subtitle of Life, as you will see there. And the theme continues from July. This was another very welcome card. You know, it's just about being with the energy. It's just relaxing, just chilling, just breathing and enjoying life. There is this sense I'm seeing and feeling from her movement of recalibrating, of understanding what balance means. We talk a lot about being balanced, about being centered, and that may be shifting for you personally. How you accomplish that, how you get there, may very well be shifting. It may not be, but being aware of what your needs are as we're feeling our way into these newer energies is really important. Do you need more meditation? Do you need less meditation? Do you need more art in your life? Do you need to be out in nature more? Do you need to be on your devices less? I know I just recently put a one of those timers, those trackers, to see how much I'm on my phone. And that's been quite helpful. So, what is it that you're needing to stay balanced, to stay centered, and just really paying attention to that, I think, is important. But again, August is another yes kind of month where we're really just enjoying life and breathing. And on that note, the quote for this card, which I thought, again, was just really spot on. And I actually learned something from this that was quite interesting. So, where is it? Wow. It took me quite a minute to find the quote, which to me is just added emphasis on the importance of breath. And this piece right here actually was a big awakening for me, and I would say even maybe an aha. The pace of the breath and the quality can demonstrably change state, mood, and even peak physical functionality. If you are not breathing deeply enough, it affects the function of your muscles, including your heart, your capacity to take in enough oxygen to feed your organs and brain, and of course your sleep patterns. So the aha for me was that I was experiencing some back pain yesterday, and I realized that I was holding my breath more than is healthy. And so I started to consciously breathe and visualize bringing oxygen to that part of my body, and the pain lessened pretty much immediately. And there's a heart image in the card. And it's just a reminder, I think a lot of us have been holding our breath. There's just this, fear does that. It's a contracting kind of an experience. That's what fear is. It's a contracting experience. So this is a very, this is the serious side of this card, is to just be very conscious of your breathing and your breathing habits. And if you do have a habit of holding your breath and not breathing deeply, then, do some things throughout the day to change that. Ask your angels to help you to change that. One of the things that I do is whenever I feel any kind of, or I've been doing since yesterday, I should say, this is not an established habit yet, but whenever I do feel sort of my body say hello and raise its hand, and bring it in. And I am very conscious of my breathing while I'm meditating, but it's other times during the day when I can tend to hold it in. So again, very important, breathe and allow the recalibration of your body, these energies, and know that life itself is supporting you. The card for September, number 9, Magic, with the subtitle of Alchemy. I love this card. So much power, and of course right off there's this theme of, coming out of the darkness into this new dawning, this new experience of light and love. And there's so much about things coming together again, not as they happened before, but I see these hands in this card, just they're coming together. There's this theme of evolution and newness that continues, and we're starting to see things with new eyes. We're starting to really understand what this new way of being in the world feels like. And the manifestation itself, process itself, alchemy is the process of manifestation, and it's changing, or our understanding, it's not changing, our understanding of it is changing. We really have moved from this way of being that's very forced and push and make it happen, and there's purpose in that. We don't want to eliminate that, but we're in this place of understanding finally how important it is to just receive and allow and set your inner GPS to the vibration that is about receiving everything that your soul needs, everything that your soul requires to do its work here on planet Earth. The the conception process, back to that baby, is you have to have the pushing, the male pushing, but you also have to have the female receiving, in order to create that beautiful baby. And so again, this isn't about eliminating that forcing and that pushing. It's needed, but there's been far too little of the just receiving and just opening to what you're attracting, and opportunities, those manifestations that are trying to come to you. You can't take advantage of them if you're kind of busy in your head or stressing out or trying to push to make something happen. It can't happen. Or it can't happen because if you're not aware and you're not following your guidance and you're not listening. So that's actually just popping forward now is a really important element of this message, is listening, deeply to your guidance. So the quote for this card is, "There is magic to be found everywhere if you look for it. You are the magic. Magic is not a miracle, although it can sometimes feel like that. Doubt kills more dreams than failure. Have faith in your ability. Weave together all the disparate pieces." So allow that coming together. And remember, I love that first sentence there. You are magic. For October, number 10. This is the Lake card with the subtitle of Depth Fair. And I'm very drawn to how she's just suspended here. It's a little bit of, I don't want to say heavier, but it's a little bit more of a serious note to the card for October. For those of you who chose number 10, the old ways, the old structures are sinking, and there's still some left here. And she's suspended. This is a month where I kept getting the message from my angels to be asking a lot of questions, to be getting clarity, to just being curious. As she's sitting in suspension, I picture her asking these questions just in communion with her angels, with Source. And, what should I be holding on to? What should I be letting go of? And again, this is a continued theme, but it's going to be throughout the year. As we come out of all that's changed it in 2020, we're going to be invited to be very conscious and aware of what we're keeping and what we're letting go of. And that can be for all things, from physical objects to relationships to jobs to just habits, all of it. So this is a month of going deep and into that experience and allowing the stillness to help you understand what the soul is answering to those questions. And that's really the key here, because that's the truth that is working to emerge through you, is what your soul needs. Not what the ego has been trained, by so many centuries more of just, I want, I need. Not that, but from this deep space of allowing the answers to those questions. What is it that my soul needs and requires to do what I'm here to do? So some of the old structures will remain, of course. This isn't like wiping the slate clean. This is just being very conscious and aware of what we're carrying forward and what we're not going to bring with us. So this isn't a card of upheaval. This is more about just going deep. And, October is often about that anyway. Scorpio begins in October, and that's associated with a lot of deep truths. So that's what we were being encouraged to do. All right. So the clip from this card is, and this is so apropos of what I just shared with you, is do not take the shallow alternative. Deep dive. Do the research. Do not cut corners. So again, I feel the need to read this again. So some of you may need to hear this twice. Do not take the shallow alternative. Deep dive. Do the research. Do not cut corners. So I feel like there's another snippet, so bear with me a second while I just tune in to see if that's ready to come in. And they're saying yes. I'm hearing research is emphasized here, which is new to me right now. So if you're feeling the tug to learn more about something, I think that's sort of a secondary message to this, is that you're being encouraged to do that, because that's probably your soul, that is your soul, that is looking to explore, to learn more, to be able to answer those questions more fully. So, and that is feeling complete. Okay, and for November, number 11, we have gravity, which the term gravity can immediately feel like I talk about having a gravity storm when I need a nap, but this actually, there's a lot of levity in this card when you look at it. And so while the theme is about gravity, there is that sense of lightening, of levity. She's held by the butterflies of transformation. She has the support and admiration of her community. Look at all those sweet little animals around her. They are very curious about what she's doing. It feels to me like they are celebrating. She's not specifically celebrating, but some of the animals around her certainly look like they are. And so, she's so connected. She's so connected. She's sitting on top of the earth. She has this community of animals around her, of the planets around her, of just all of nature's resources that have come together to support her, as she's incubating, and so October was this time of stillness and going deep, and she's still a little bit in that space. We're still going to be a little bit in that quieter space, but it's not in this heavy sense of the word. It's really about just appreciating all of the resources that are available and taking advantage of all the resources that are available. I was very drawn to Saturn here, up here, right there. And Saturn is about, among other things, it's about maturity. And that feels very relevant. It's like she's maturing. She's preparing to rise up. And she's just gathering sort of that final boost, if you will, from her community, from the heavens, from all those beautiful natural energies that are working with her in order to do that, to rise up. So that is actually feeling complete. The subtitle on the card is groundedness. So, being grounded, there's that sort of duality with the inner core and solidity. It's this groundedness and gravity, and yet she's lifting up. So we're sort of, again, experiencing life in a new way. So the quote for this card is, answers. Gravity is a fantastic element to include in your workings for groundedness. And when you feel untethered because of trauma or things going too fast, breathing, there it is again, putting your awareness in your feet and asking gravity to do its thing is good, solid magic. I love that. So again, just like with the time, thinking of time as an element, thinking of gravity as an element, something that is there for you to use, to assist you throughout your day. I know that sometimes when I go for a walk, I'll feel not totally in my body, and I just stomp my feet while I'm walking and just, okay, Earth, show me you're here. And it really helps to get back in the body. So I do think there's sort of I'm just getting this now, there's sort of a PS to this card that it's important to ground right now. So if you're feeling a little out of body, ask gravity to give you a hand. Finally, for the month of December 2021, the sun. I was so excited when this card came forward. I can't tell you, because I love the winter solstice. I love it. It's my favorite celebration of the year because, I'm a sun kind of girl. So that moment when the sun starts its journey back towards the northern hemisphere, bringing us longer days, it's just such a wonderful, wonderful time for me. So this card is just about worshiping what is important to you. There's a strong sense of reverence and worship in this card. Those are two words that just really feel very pronounced. You'll see these individuals are sitting and they're worshiping the sun. And I think that this is a lot about looking at, and again, this is a continued theme, but what are you worshiping? Where are you putting that energy? And what are you holding on high? And what are you giving light to? And does it feel like it resonates with truth for you? The sun represents the self. It represents the identity, and the identity is pure when we come from that place of truth and when we shine the light on what the soul is looking to express. And so that's where the emphasis is with this card, is looking at what it is that your soul is looking to express, that light that is within you. So when I look at this image, I'm noticing this, the sun is sort of oozing down here. And, that at first feels a little bit odd, is the word in my head. But I think it's about how you want to be in the world and recognizing that your light shines out as you allow the soul to be the center of your universe, so to speak. I'm just asking my angels if I said that correctly, and they're saying yes. So I think when there's oozing, it's when we're not totally in alignment with that, when we're allowing the ego to drive the bus. Again, a continued theme here, but there's a lot of peace in this card, and the overall message is that, we're doing a good job. We're doing a good job. There might be still a little bit of, ego stuff that's oozing out, but most of it is really whole and pure and beautiful, and that light is shining. So be mindful of what you're worshiping, where you put your focus, where you shine your light, and just, be aware and have that intention that it come from the soul level, from truth of who you are. Because, all of us are being reborn. All of us are emerging anew. And truth is, we always are, but the energies in the world right now, in the heavens right now, in the whole solar system are just supporting a more dramatic shift, a more dramatic rebirth right now. So it really is a time of beautiful transformation. All right, so the quote that came forward for this card is, be grateful for what you have right now. Every day brings new possibilities and opportunities. Concentrate on building your vitality and health. Shine a strong light upon the dark corners. Honesty and transparency are vital at this time. I hadn't actually read that last sentence before, but it feels like it really just sums up everything I was just saying. Honesty and vitality are really important right now. So that is feeling complete. And that, my lovely ones, is a wrap for our Wheel of the Year spread for 2021. And thank you so much for joining me here today. I do encourage you to grab this deck if you're feeling pulled to, because it's really, it's magical. I love Stacey DeMarco's work, and I'll drop a link in the comments here, but it's a good one. The angels have put a lot of emphasis, as I said at the beginning, and I think it's helping us, supporting us in working with these energies that are newer to a lot of us. Some of us were born into it. Some of us are a little older than that. So much love to each and every one of you. Wishing you a beautiful, blessed year. Please do drop your comments and any questions in the comments below. I love to hear what comes forward for you and what your experience is. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Angels Teach YouTube channel and come on over and visit angelsteach.com and find out what we've got going on over there. And with that, so much love to each and every one of you. Be well.